Hi, everybody. It's Deb here again on the podcast. And today we have a very, very wonderful guest. And she's joining us all the way from Australia as well. Thank you so much, Nadine, for taking the time to, work with us with the time difference and all that. And I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. So what really fascinated me about what Nadine is doing, she talks about trauma-informed money coach. She is a trauma-informed money coach. And that's a very different angle to what I've always heard about people always coaching people to just get more money or to be more abundant, to have more, to have more prosperity. But I think the angle that I liked when I read Nadine's bio is that, oh, okay, so she understands that there is trauma related to the relationship that we have with money. Just like any other relationship, if you had a bad relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, maybe there's some trauma and perhaps that needs to be healed. So very excited today, you guys, to introduce Nadine to you. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about her journey and how she got to become a coach, a money coach. And yeah, I'm just so very happy to have you with us here, Nadine.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, the time difference is a bit funny, but we made it work. So hi, everyone. My name is Nadine Zumot. I am a trauma-informed money coach with the emphasis on healing our money wounds so that we can amplify our life purpose and our pleasure in this lifetime, because our souls chose to be in the 3D incarnation at this time so that we can enjoy life, but also do what we came here to do. And so many of us feel held back from expressing our purpose, from being in full authentic expression of ourselves, because we are scared of money. There are many other factors, but money just touches so many things in our lives, whether we know it or not. And as Deb said, unfortunately, the mainstream advice or recommendations, it all revolves around either saving more, I don't know, like holding yourself back from wanting anything, earning more, manifesting more, even if we're going through that other, personal development route, manifest more, want less. Maybe you need to like curb down your wants. Maybe you need to do this. And these things, they work. But where I come in is if you have an emotionally tumultuous relationship with money, if money makes you feel triggered, if you know in your logical brain what to do with money, but you do not seem to be able to physically apply what you need to be doing with money, then there could be trauma there. And what I mean by trauma is not, so trauma is not just a big dramatic event that happened to you. Trauma is pretty much the things that have happened to you, even if they were small things or things that you didn't receive, especially in childhood. So, for example, if you are somebody that, would receive more love if you got good grades, that is unconditional love. You did not receive unconditional love, for example. So your worth is really connected to how well you perform in life. So I just wanted to preface this by saying trauma is not necessarily a big dramatic event. It is how you internalized events that happened in your life, how you internalized not receiving certain things in your childhood. And you can have money trauma, not just because you had financial issues happening in your life. So financial trauma is different to money trauma. Financial trauma is if you go through something that is directly connected with finances. So for example, bankruptcy, loss of assets, and really high debt, and all of these things that are really traumatizing and heavy. But money trauma is a different school of fish altogether. Money trauma is how all your any trauma that happened to you and how it affects your relationship with money.
Wow. Okay. And I'm glad that you distinguished between the two, because for example, when you're growing up and there are certain people that experience this as a child, maybe your parents lost their house, or the father lost his job, or or the father went to jail, or there could be any of these things can happen, and then that would be kind of financially ruining your family. So that's one aspect.
That's
okay?
one aspect. So that's trauma on many different levels. Yes.
Yeah, correct. But when we talk about the trauma that really is the relationship that we have to money, is also triggered by experiences that we've had in the past.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of times I see people's attachment wounding showing up in their relationship with money. Their core wounds show up in relationship with money.
Ooh, could you explain that, please, before we move on?
Yes, sure. So, all right, let me just tell you, let's zoom out before we zoom in. Correct. So how can I tell if someone has money wounds or money trauma? Overspending is one of the symptoms. Financial anxiety, no matter how much money you make, that is a symptom. Scarcity mentality, even if things are no longer scarce, that is a symptom of money trauma. Another symptom is hoarding money, saving too much money, because that was me. Like, we are all taught that saving money is good, but oversaving or hoarding, as they say, is also a symptom of financial trauma. Being too stingy, or even avoiding looking at your money and saying, oh, I'm too artistic, money is materialistic, I don't want to look at money, I don't want to participate in the capitalist model, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. That is also, it could be a symptom of having money trauma.
Wow,
so
that's huge. That's a huge list.
Yeah, it's a very big list, and unfortunately every single one of those in mainstream coaching or mainstream financial advice or whatever, how to kind of solve these problems. First of all, they're called problems. They're not symptoms. When we call these problems, the solution will be a Band-Aid approach. We're not healing from the root of this, of the trauma. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it. That's why people would follow a budget and then fall off the budget after a few months. That's why people they're taught to override their feelings. When we have trauma, it's an emotion that we experienced in the past that was not able to fulfill the trauma cycle. We weren't able, for some reason, to complete that cycle, to express that feeling, to defend ourselves. So it depends on the situation. So that gets internalized in the body, and it expresses itself in all of our relationships, especially in our relationship with money, which, as I said earlier, has a lot to do with the way we express ourselves, the way that we express our purpose.
Gotcha. Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. I just wanted for our listeners to know the difference as what does this mean? When you talk about that you get wounded or you have symptoms, or what is the root cause? It's just to know, because even I, like when you were saying, okay, people that overspend, people that spend too little, because where do you find the balance? And so actually, hopefully towards the end of this talk, I would like for you to give us a little bit of an understanding of what it would be like to have a good relationship. So that, because I think we could all identify a little bit of these within ourselves at some point in time within our lives. And it's just to find out, okay, so how do we bring balance to this?
Okay, cool.
So hopefully we can get to that once you've talked through all the approaches.
Cool. Yeah. So ask away. What more questions do you have?
Okay. Okay, great. So oh my God. Okay, here I go. So thank you so much for the opportunity to ask these questions, because of course, when you were saying some of these things, even I was like, oh, I did that sometimes. And I did that sometimes. And actually, myself, I will say something here about myself. It's like, when I notice people are stingy, I kind of cringe a little bit. But that's because it could also be part of a trauma, because it's like, you don't want to appear to be stingy, even if you don't have a lot. So you just keep spending. So that could also be another way of putting on a Band-Aid, isn't it?
It could be. I have a money archetype quiz on my website. And what it is that it pretty much tells you what your money personality is, but it really goes deeper than that. So there's 8 money archetypes, and these are not something that I created. It's my mentor, Deborah Price. She created the archetypes, but I use them in my coaching. But the way I use them is very different to how I'm taught. Every archetype can show you what I can tell you what your money wounds are through your money archetype quiz results.
Oh, gotcha.
So for example, being like stingy per se. What is stingy? Being stingy is really being very attached to money. And perhaps, and that's, I do not generalize, but because every single situation and person is very, very specific. So for example, being stingy can be an attempt to be in control of life, because feeling out of control is very scary. So that's why a person can be stingy. Somebody can be stingy because, like, being stingy, let's call it the tyrant archetype. That's how I, the word I prefer to use in archetype speak. So being in an archetype, having that tyrant archetype, for example, like I said, it could be in an attempt to control the circumstances because you have an inner child inside of you that's scared, that it wants that affection. Maybe money was a love language at home as a child. So having that money is like a security blanket for the inner child that's inside of you. So I use a lot of nervous system healing and inner child work and archetypal work with my clients. So that is one way of looking at it. Another way could be you derive your sense of success from how much money you have.
So you just keep saving it. Your self-worth is attached to how much money you have in the bank.
Yes, and that becomes your first and foremost concern in life. And that also can be a way to, like calm down deeper wounding, for example, because typically that's because you have that victim archetype that's underlying as well.
Yes.
So it's really very nuanced.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you for that, because that actually helps me too personally when I see that. It could be have more compassion because you don't know the reason. It doesn't have to come from a point of judgment, because like obviously that started when I was young, and like when things are saved, you just don't even question why you have it. You just run with it until you become aware. So that's very good, when you bring awareness to why you have that.
So the whole thing with the reason why I leaned into money to heal trauma, like I think my whole idea for starting a business is to help people better express themselves in their life purpose, because I do believe that the world will just function better if we're all in alignment with our life purpose. I just have this intuitive feeling. And the reason why I leaned into money is because of my own money trauma growing up. And I knew that if I did not work on healing my money trauma, I'm just going to be one of the factors that keep perpetuating the collective money wound. So I decided it will stop with me. And I decided that this is something that a lot of healers and practitioners and coaches need to also learn to do for themselves. Because we need to stop that trauma, that big like money trauma wound. That sounds like a lot of very like, the collective money trauma or the collective money wound, because that's what's ruining our earth. And the whole thing is that money is so volatile. And just by looking at somebody's financial patterns, I can pinpoint exactly, after speaking to them and looking at the interaction of their archetypes, I can tell them exactly what their underlying trauma is. And it usually is about, childhood. And it's not about blaming or shaming our parents, because a lot of times it's the way we internalize the world from the perspective of a child. The other aspect of it is because I want to start helping people look at money beyond finances, beyond the dollars. I want to help people start looking at money as a modality for healing, because it's so volatile and it activates us in such an emotional way that leaning into money can, and a lot of times it is very scary. That's why you hire a coach to do it in a titrated way, right? So when you co-regulate with a coach that has already done their money work, that has, done training, obviously, and all of that, you can start walking into your shadows through the lens or through the gateway of your emotions around money. And that could provide a shortcut to your wounds, to provide healing. A lot of my clients actually are able to heal their relationships with their spouses. I have a client that healed her relationship to alcohol just from doing the money work. And it's not because she was spending money on alcohol. it was because through the money work that we did, she healed her relationship with her inner mother. And that was the cause of,
all the
lots of
problems.
other addictions. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's so beautiful. And you know what? I've never heard anybody say money as a modality for healing using, it's like I've never heard that before. And it's really great to know that. And like what you just said before, sometimes it shows up with money, but sometimes the wound is deeper than that. And when you heal the wound, then as a result, the money and everything else. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's basically just like the healing of the self.
There is. So I have a podcast called Beyond the Fear. The second episode, I believe it's called WTF Money. I talk about how we can use money as a healing modality, as someone that is spiritually inclined, that has, that wants to further heal, further do good work in the world. So I would recommend everybody listen to this episode, because it's really talking about how money can
Beyond
be
the
that.
Fear, episode 2.
Episode 2. Sorry, I know we don't swear on this. WTF money.
What the fuck?
What the fuck is money?
Swear.
Yeah,
it swears. What the fuck? It's fine. Everybody does it. Wow, that's really, really amazing. So I know that we are going to be running out of time. Maybe we need to do another podcast with you, but I wanted to get I just wanted for our listeners to know what's available. Like, what kind of, do you have group sessions? Do you have online workshops? Because a lot of people can't afford one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So like, is there an opportunity for people to do it as a group, and what different kind of workshops do you have that people can jump into, and what would be the basic that you would recommend?
So like you were saying, my one-on-one container is the most, like specialized hand-holding, absolute, like inside out transformation kind of thing. But also my group coaching is great. So I run it's a hybrid between self-paced program and group coaching, monthly group coaching, called the Money Sanctuary. So you go in there and you are going to learn how to plan your money, how to use the bucket system to organize your finances, how to start tapping into your soul and make sure that the things that you want are not trauma desires, are more like of authentic desires, and how to include that in your money plan. The idea of the Money Sanctuary is that I don't want people who are creatively and spiritually inclined to keep feeling that money is an obstacle. I want them to, in the Money Sanctuary, I help people heal their relationship with money so that money can become something that is fueling their creativity, not standing in its way. So I do go into things that are a little bit like technical, but I do them from a trauma-informed way. So there's like a module that's going to come up in a couple of months called Credit Card Confidence. I teach how to look at credit scores from a trauma-informed lens, and why we need to look at it and why we don't. There's lots of information on there on money and the nervous system, how to heal the scarcity wound, and then creating trauma-informed financial boundaries. There's a lot of stuff in there that's really, really, I would say, very juicy. I like that word.
Yes.
So it's self-paced, and also we meet once a month for group coaching. I'm going to add another one once I'm back in the Southern Hemisphere. Northern Hemisphere.
Northern Hemisphere.
Now.
Yes.
I have a lot of people in there from Europe.
It's like you're in the summer now.
I'm in the summer now. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And my podcast is a really a good place to also hang out
as well.
Because I do share lots of journaling prompts at the end of every episode. So that's really, really helpful. The other thing people can do to jumpstart their healing journey with money is do the money archetype quiz and book a session with me, book a 45-minute clarity session with me. In that session, I'll be able to give someone what it means, like what their archetype means, but also not just what archetypes that come up in their chart. What's the interaction between what comes up and what doesn't come up, right? Like if they have a high tyrant but a low victim, what does that mean, kind of thing. And then I'll
interpret it a little bit for them.
Yeah,
and work with them into
like a reading, but I'll give them some coaching, and also give them like a roadmap of how they can start self-healing and self-coaching.
Wonderful.
So
Awesome. Well, that's great that people can straight away start with something like that.
Yeah.
And then also, like you said, you're going to the Money Sanctuary that people can go on, like you can access things online, and there's a once a month,
Yes.
live coaching with you, with everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
So
The co-regulation.
that would be a
in
nice,
that is
a
awesome.
nice place to start too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just think that it's so, a lot of us don't even know that we're stuck in these patterns, right? Like we just keep going on and on doing the same thing, not finding happiness, not finding, like you said, like expressing our true purpose and why we're here, So if you're listening out there and you feel like this resonates with you or even a little bit, then I would encourage you to get in touch with Nadine. She's absolutely amazing. And it's just, like we should all share our gifts and making the planet better. And like if everybody's healthy and happier, we'll have a healthy and happier planet, is what I believe. So when we're using our gifts, sharing it with the world, that's great.
One thing, very, very small thing here. We do get trapped into the notion of once I heal, I can share. The thing is, your life purpose lies within your trauma.
Oh, stop, pause, say that again.
Your life purpose lies within your trauma.
Please expand.
So, for example, let's say I'm a money coach. The other person here, Jane, is a money coach, whoever Jane is. The way I express money coaching is going to be very different to Jane because of it's flavored by my own self-expression, which I do through the lens of my past, through the lens of my travel, my experience, which is all, informed by the way I view the world and the way we view the world. Yes, it's unique to me, but the way we view the world is also uniquely tinted by the way that we carried ourselves through our trauma, by the way that we identify how our purpose is stronger than our past and stronger than our trauma, but not in a way that's overriding our trauma, but how we heal that trauma. So I chose to heal my inner child wounds through the lens of money. That's why I can take people as deep as I can. You see what I mean?
That's a very great. And I've seen that in society, like some people do it through, like, for example, my first teaching modality was breath and yoga. So that's always, since the last 25 years, that's just there, right? And like I've added a few other things, but that's basically been the thing. And then there's a couple of other people that I know. For one girl, for example, she's actually also from Australia. She started to do sexuality. Like she just started with these, I don't know, like, expressing herself through her sexuality. And for a lot of us, that can make us feel uncomfortable as females or males, even, right? And then, of course, hearing you saying that you
money makes people uncomfortable.
Oh my God. Like, so that's really, really interesting. And thank you for sharing that with us, because it is so true. There isn't just one way to heal. No, it can be anything, but it's like how you said so beautifully that your trauma gives you the opportunity to find your path to healing.
It really does. I wanted to add something, but it kind of escaped my mind. It'll come back if it's important. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The thing is with money and sex and all of these things, especially with money, is that money wounds and our, consistent thinking about money is something people at all economic statuses we all share that, whether we have money or don't have money, whether we're rich or we're on the poverty line or in the middle, we all have this common concern of money.
Because it's in our collective consciousness.
It is in our collective consciousness.
It comes from our families.
And it affects everything around us. And like you said, like our relationship with money does not begin when we first got an allowance when we first left home. It
comes from our family roots.
From age 2. That's when our relationship exactly. It is roots. What we absorb from our families. So
when I started to do the healing within myself, one of the and I didn't know this at the time, but one of the things that I did look at was I used to feel ashamed, or I used to feel that like, oh, I'm not good enough because I didn't come from a family that had a lot of money.
Okay.
And then when I started to do my inner work, the inner healing, I just realized that was just like some thought that I made up somewhere when I was like maybe 3. And it's not like that. It's not true. So as soon when I did the healing and I shifted my point of view,
Okay.
then that shifted. So
Yeah.
that's how I, without knowing,
Yeah.
I created the healing from that perspective, from that point of view, because I just realized that obviously, like most of us, we think that our self-worth is attached to who we are, what we produce, how we can be of service, blah, 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 right? All those things.
How productive we are.
Yeah, but our self-worth has nothing to do with any of that, because I'm worthy, because I'm here.
It's so beautiful that you share that, because there is certain, you know, like it depends on how these wounds were hammered into you. It sounds like a shift in perspective was very effective for you. For me, mindset work and perspective shifting, that did not work for me. It made me feel broken, because I would join a program and everybody like has these awesome transformations because of a mindset shift or a perspective shift. Not for me, because my trauma, my trauma around money and worth and my abandonment wound was so like deep inside my psyche. Like I had to do a lot of somatic healing. I had to do so much. It took maybe 2 years for me to kind of just lodge, like just move around the abandonment wound, because you know, that's when we know if we feel like mindset work and shifts in perspective is not working for us. That's when we know that we have deeper trauma that is actually lodged inside your body.
I have to add though that that didn't just happen. It was because of my timeline with meditation and yoga. So having the everyday meditation and yoga helped me to, you know, connect deeper with the self, because all the answers lie within, but we can't reach it because the mind keeps us, you know.
Also there's like all the trauma on top of it, right?
Exactly. So when we're thinking we're protecting ourselves, right? And so it's great that you pointed that out, because I wanted to just tell listeners too that it didn't just happen like overnight. It was actually some time of creating a daily meditation and yoga routine that helped me to access that, so that then I was able to make the choice, because we can always make the choice, but when you're not ready, and when the awareness of making the choice is not there, and even if you want to make the choice, but you don't even know why you want to make the choice. So it's good to mention to listeners that, it can happen, but if it doesn't happen, where you can just shift your perspective and change something for yourself, then we can try another modality. And there are many modalities out there that can help you. I mean, we've got ayahuasca, we've got breath work, we've got yoga, we've got meditation, there's so many somatic, you know, different energetic modalities that people can use. But I will say the one thing that they all have in common is this, from my experience: everything that we are perceiving is from the working mind. So we have a memory, we keep going back in the past we're looking for some information to make better decisions for the now or for the future. So the mind is constantly busy and it has so much information, and we can't access our pure, kind of like the pure consciousness, where, you know, the God consciousness, you can call it. That's like where we exist, you know, and we are not an aging body, or we're not a changing body, or we're not changing emotion. We are just the pure awareness. So when you have the opportunity to connect with the true consciousness, the pure consciousness, you kind of like, there's a stillness. And once the working mind is shut down, now you're able to access who you truly are. And from that place, you can make, you know, a better choice, a better decision. And again, that can happen through different working modalities that there are many people teaching many different things. And I think they probably all work if you apply yourself. And you just have to feel what resonates with you, because we're all going to be different in what we resonate with and which path we're choosing to heal our trauma. But the working mind is usually the problem. And if you can find a way, and if I heard it correctly, what you teach also is like, you can go through somatic different experiences. You can take people beyond the thinking mind so that they can create that, which we call the root cause. Because you can't get to the root cause if you keep staying in the mind. Because I think it was Einstein that said, you cannot solve the problem on the same frequency that it exists. So the problem usually existing on the frequency of the mind. We have to find a way to get above that.
Yeah. So all what you're saying, just like going back and like adding on, through doing your your meditation, your breath work, what it sounds to me that what you did was you cultivated safety in your body. That's why when we cultivate safety in our bodies or in a co-regulation relationship, whether it's with a partner, a coach, whatever, that is when that safety, your shadow parts start feeling that they're okay to come out. And when we talk about the mind, when we talk about our thinking mind, right? Like normal or mainstream personal development calls our sabotaging beliefs or our sabotaging patterns as limiting beliefs or limiting patterns. And that's something I do not subscribe to whatsoever, because these beliefs, these patterns, even like our, like the cyclical thinking that's kind of on a downward spiral in our mind, that is actually our protective parts. Thing that you need to lean into, not think that this is like the obstacle. What's happening is that your brain or your psyche, a part of you, is trying to protect you. So in that protection, there's a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of lessons to learn in there. So that's where I would say to lean in. And I do know from personal experience and from witnessing many clients go through it, we can access that pure consciousness, or you want to call it your higher self, or that divine knowing, or whatever it is, through trauma healing. Because sometimes when we have trauma, we cannot even trust that connection. Because if we feel like everybody's going to abandon us or that we're not good enough, we might even perpetuate that trauma into...
We retract it over and over.
Yeah, we can just we look at things through that lens, right? So we would not even trust our relationship with God. We would only think that God will love us if we're good. I won't receive information, or I won't receive that divine knowing unless I do this, because our conditioning is that we receive love in a conditional way. So that's why the more we heal, the more we can access that pure consciousness, because that pure consciousness is where all the answers are.
Correct.
Right?
Where we know everything, all knowing. Yeah.
Oh, this is knowing.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so amazing.
And that's where our purpose is. That's exactly what it is. Like the crux of it all is exactly what you said, Deb, is that we heal, we do all of this work so that we can access that connection that we have
to the divine.
To the divine, and to the divine with like within and below, the divine that's like in the earth that we're living on, that's providing us with everything from the day we're born to the day we die as a human body, and also to the divine above us and the divine within us.
Wow.
And this is more accessible through healing our wounds.
Yeah. Well, Nadine, I'm so grateful that, our paths crossed, and that I could have this privilege of having the podcast with you today, and just for all the wonderful, little nuggets, gold nuggets that you gave us and shared with us. And I personally would definitely take one of your, probably the money sanctuary, and just like hop on, hopefully once a month, because like I said, a lot of us, we are blind, like it's a blind spot. And so when you have somebody, and like what I love about you is what I really honestly, and this is like, I don't say this to a lot of people, but what I love about you and who you are is this openness to receiving people where they're at.
Yes.
It's like, wow, what a gift you are to us. Because I mean, in my life, like whenever I've heard, one of the big money people that I heard, like in the 80s, she was an American lady. I even forget her name right now. She was kind of blonde, short hair, but she was the big, like she wrote books and everybody was about her. And I just felt like, I don't know, she would judge me, or, I just...
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I was just like, so if you guys are listening out there and you're watching this after, like, we are so blessed to have this pure human being here that is willing to meet us where we're at, and to help us to also be grateful for the trauma, because the trauma is the key to the, to the healing.
Oh my God, that's the soundbite. That is it. Yes.
And so it's so wonderful that you are here and you are being of service to us. And I'm definitely going to sign up to one of these things because I just want to I just want to see you more, right? And I'm sure who doesn't want to have more money and heal relationships more with money? Because there's always something in the closet that you can unpack,
Oh, I love that. It's, in Friends, Monica's closet.
Yeah, exactly. There's all these little things in the closet.
It's like everything, it looks good, but then you open that door and everything falls out. You're like, oh my God, that's still there. That's still there.
And here's the thing, what I love about what all of life is like, before you need it, the people who's going to help you will appear. And that's how I feel about you, like, the
wonderful
gift that you are. And I just want to thank you also because we have to be brave to walk through the darkness. Through your own darkness, so that you get to the light, and then you can bring the torch out and say, here it is, people, follow this line. Like, just
that's exactly the analogy, or the vision that I give to people. Like, I've walked through the tunnel,
walked through the darkness.
I know what it's about. I'll hold the torch for you. I'll hold your hand when you need me, because it's scary. I mean, I talk lightly and I laugh about it, but man, I've had moments where I was just on the floor, on the kitchen, on the kitchen floor, having a breakdown. That was me. And I mean, it happens, and you don't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but man, there really is. And the light feels so much more authentic than you could expect, because a lot of times we feel like something's going to go away, or the other shoe might drop, or like an imposter syndrome or whatever, because we didn't do it in a way, like, we know that there's like this thing in the shadows that's lurking. But once we do the shadow work, once we do the trauma work, we feel like our happiness is actually very authentic. So
no, really. And I don't say this much, but I have a good intuition, and I can usually really see things, actually. And like, when I see you, that's what I see. Is like, I see this like warrior person who, went through the darkness, and she healed her wounds, and she's come out of that cave, and she's like, here it is, people, take this. So thank you for that. And thank you. And this is one of my favorite books, and I always keep it here. It's very old, like probably 25 years old, Deepak Chopra, The Way of the Wizard, one of my favorites. So there's different lessons. And in lesson 14, he says, lose everything and the real will still remain. When you look in the ashes, look well. So when we were talking about trauma, using the trauma as a way to get into the light, that's exactly what it means. It's like, sometimes when we're in the darkness, sometimes when we're burning, sometimes when everything is dark and things are falling apart, he's saying, when everything's burnt down, look in the ashes and look well, because something beautiful and new is going to emerge. And that's like what I would see with you when you've done the work, and now you've looked in the ashes and you've emerged, and now you're taking that. And I think when I hear what you're saying, is that that's your life purpose. Yeah. You found your life purpose through the darkness, and you've emerged, right?
Thank you. So yes, thank you for witnessing.
I wanted to share that.
Yeah, the funny thing, my whole business started from a Chopra book too. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of his books, but this has been my all-time favorite over the last 25, because he's written many books, but this is definitely my number one of him. It's probably the only one I have left in the house. The rest, you give, and so on and so on. But yeah, it's really wonderful, because some people, like for me, for example, I didn't have to go through so much trauma and darkness. I had a little bit. That was enough for me. Some of us have to go very deep, and some of us
you've gone through the trauma healing in your past life. This life is about like
and I think and I always learn very fast from others. Like I check my surroundings, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I love my father so dearly. Bless his soul. He's not with us anymore. Aww. But my father used to, like, he worked at sea. And whenever he used to come back to land, I would imagine that he would just be happy that he's still alive. But I was tiny, like 3, 4, 5 years old. Yeah. And he would come back, and he'd always have had alcohol. And he would be like, a little bit like happy. And I decided that no, I am not going to use alcohol in my life.
Wow.
I didn't.
Yeah, wow.
And so, I learned very fast from my environment. And so therefore, maybe I didn't have to go through so much darkness, but I did have some. And of course, that little bit I'm very grateful for, because it helped me to look. When I was very young, I started my journey. And
Wow. Jeez,
and then I
okay.
use that, right, to help others. And I've been very privileged that over the years, 25 years of teaching yoga, breathwork, wellness and health and so on. So I have been able to, in my small way, share what I've learned.
What a gift you are. Thank you so
Yeah,
much from the
thank
world.
you so much. Yay.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yay. So my gosh, thank you so much, Nadine, for making the time. I appreciate it so much, even with the time difference. And we are going to put all Nadine's information at the bottom of the podcast. Reach out to her, and probably if you're going to jump into the Money Sanctuary, you'll see me there, because as soon as it's going to be, you're going to launch one for the Northern Hemisphere, right? So we can sign up for those dates.
So right now we meet once a month at 5 p.m. PST on the second Wednesday. So that is still, Northern Hemisphere friendly. The one I'm going to add is going to be good for for US, North America, and also European times. But for now, the 5 p.m. PST works for North America.
Work for you. Yeah. Selfishly, I'm going to have to, for me, I teach yoga on a Wednesday night, so probably I won't make that. But if you can personally just personally send me something that I can look at that's not that time, I would love to jump in. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being who you are, for serving us, and for just being beautiful. I'm so grateful that our paths crossed and that we could have this beautiful conversation. And probably I would like to interview you again with some deeper stuff.
Yeah. No worries. I'm always here. All right.
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thanks for listening.
Wonderful. Bye. Bye-bye.